Hey, what's up guys? It's Alec from Cichlid Bros. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, me and my brothers Troy and Quinn are going to be walking you through all of our aquariums, starting right here in my basement fish room. So let's dive right in. All right, so this is my basement fish room. We'll walk right over here. We'll start out with my new 220 gallon custom aquarium. It's actually not that new anymore. It's actually 6 months old. So here it is, 220 gallons. It's 2 feet front to back, 6 feet wide, 30 inches tall, with also a 36-inch stand, so it's kind of eye level. And this is full of predator haps, mainly. There's about 15 haps in here, no peacocks, no lambuna. There are a few common haps in here, like a Taiwan reef, deep water hap. I got a red empress back there, but for the most part, these are about 10-inch to 1 foot long predator haps, and they're just awesome. Everybody's thriving. There haven't been a lot of new additions to this tank recently, but everybody's really settled in nicely. There's no mean tank boss anymore, so everything's doing good. Everybody's coloring up. The Buko Noto here especially is coloring up nicely lately, and probably my smallest, newest one I have in here is my Dimidiochromis strigatus, the sunset hap back there in the corner. He's kind of small and gray, but he's going to color up real nice. So everybody's doing great. Not a lot of new stuff to report, but there it is, my 220 gallon predator hap tank. All right, so from my 220, my largest tank I have, I want to take you around the corner here to the smallest tank I have, which is my 1 gallon Aquarium cube, which has about a handful of Neocaridina shrimp. I think they're orange pumpkin shrimp, and they're actually doing great. It's just a little filterless experiment I wanted to try out, and it's working out really well. So it's pretty cool. Check it out on our YouTube shorts. Now we have my newest tank in the fish room down here, my 40 gallon breeder, which is currently being used as a grow out tank for Mbuna that will eventually transfer into my much larger custom aquarium that'll get here in a few months. But right now I got 30 juvenile Mbuna here with, I believe, 4 species groups. The first one I have 12 Masobo Magunga deeps with also 6 Mangano, 6 Chew Ears, and also 6 JLo Reef. And I'm just loving this tank right now. There's a lot of action, and I love the scape, and I just love the tank size as well. And everybody's thriving and looking good. So that is my new 40 gallon breeder. And lastly, we'll move on to the next corner, which is my 10 gallon water box. It's a rimless aquarium. It's planted with some Wassertang, Amazon sword, it's scaped with dragonstone. So this tank has Caridina shrimp in it, blue bolts, and King Kongs. So I just kind of love this tank as an end table tank that I can just sit here, watch TV. I got the view of my big tank and my 40 breeder, but I also have the small tank right next to me that I can always just chill and look over and see the action. It's kind of hard to see them unless you're sitting right next to it. So I like to just be able to look over and see them, and it's just been a really fun tank for the last couple of years that I've had. So, all right, so that is my 10 gallon water box. So moving on to future plans, you can see here my 20 gallon Peninsula tank has been shut down. It's been shut down for a couple of weeks. I'm ready to move on from this tank and probably put a newer, bigger tank in its place somewhere down the road. But my more recent future plans, or in the more near future, I plan on putting a new tank right over here. We have an old tank staying here, so ignore that. But right here is a perfect 6 foot spot for a new 150 gallon aquarium that I'm trying to get from Custom Aquariums sometime soon. All right, so that concludes the tour of my basement fish room. So now we're gonna kick it over to Troy and check out all of his tanks.
What's up guys, Quinn here. So we're in my classroom and I'm super excited to give you a full tour of my 6 large classroom aquariums, highlighted by my Jack Dempsey, the first cichlid that we had. It has been looking incredible lately, so you don't want to miss out. All right, so we're gonna start off here with the 110 gallon custom aquarium. I did just drop some food in there, and the silver dollars definitely just stirred up the substrate, of course. So I do have 4 silver dollars in here. They're gonna be pretty good size. They typically stay towards the bottom, and they don't give me the full upwards activity that I was hoping for when I got them, but they do, I think, provide that dither fish for the others. Okay, I have a pretty large mouth brooding severum, as you can see hiding under the log right there. And then the fish that the severum usually tangles with is in between these rocks. You see the firemouth kind of peeking out there. And then you have my juvenile Jack Dempsey there. It is from the same gene pool as my large Jack. It isn't very colored up right now, but I think they were a little spooked. Typically during the school day, they are hiding in this back corner because I do have some students that like to get a little close to the tank. There you can see the firemouth coming out a little bit. Firemouth is a beautiful fish, but it is super aggressive, at least this specific one. So there you can see the firemouth just being super territorial. That's pretty common for this tank. Luckily, the Severum is very hardy and can withstand some of the blows that the firemouth will take. Sometimes the Jack juvenile, we'll get into it with the firemouth. I'll see him lock jaws every once in a while. All right, next we got the 75 gallon with my first fish, the beautiful Jack Dempsey.
Dear God, it's beautiful.
This guy's color has just been incredible in this tank. He just seems at peace. It's kind of like his retirement tank, and his colors are really starting to pop, which is awesome to see. So I've had this Jack in a variety of different substrates, but by far this black gravel has always brought out the most coloration on him. I mean, just look at the fin coloration there. I mean, all around, he's never looked better. On an unfortunate note, the only other tank inhabitant in this tank is one of my older convicts. So I think there's definitely a swim bladder issue with him. I've been trying to dose the tank with salt and different types of medicine. I don't know how much longer he has. Surprisingly, the Jack Dempsey over here has kind of acted like a little bit of a protector towards the convict. A lot of the times I'll see him kind of hovering over and definitely never showing any aggression. So for those of you that sometimes say that Jack Dempseys are super aggressive and you can't keep them with other fish, I have not experienced that with this Jack Dempsey. He has been very, very peaceful, definitely a gentle giant, and definitely evident with how he's responding to the sick fish, the only other fish in his tank. All right, next up we have the 75 gallon Mbuna tank. I absolutely love the activity of this tank, as do my students and other teachers in the school. I have a mix of Johanni, Yellow Labs, and a few acais. So these guys are definitely super active and they love to eat. So I'm gonna drop some food in there so we can watch that happen. All right, next up, we have definitely one of my favorite aquariums. It is my huge 90 gallon yellow jacket cichlid tank. This guy is slowly becoming an absolute beast. You can see those teeth on him. He's grown super fast since this summer. He just has beautiful color. So other than my large Jack Dempsey, this guy is definitely taken the second place for my favorite fish. When I'll come in the morning, he'll have some intense black stripes down his body. I think he's ready for some food. So let's drop some in. So this guy's currently about, I would say 6 to 7 inches. And will eventually be over a foot possibly. I can't wait for him to totally grow into this tank and to be just the absolute monster that he's definitely going to be. All right, now moving on to the 55 gallon that actually sits on my desk is one of my longer kept fish. This is Felix. Felix is a short-bodied flowerhorn. She has a ton of personality. She's always in this corner of the tank because she knows that that's where she can get my attention for food. So obviously, as you can see, this is a bare bottom aquarium. I'm not sure what the future plans are for this tank. I have been talking to a few students that might want to take this tank home with them over the summer and actually keep Felix full time. And that would open up space for me to eventually branch out and get a different aquarium for this spot. I would like that idea just so I know that Felix would have a good home. And the last tank is the 29-gallon community tank. So I always say that this tank is just full of kind of leftover fish from previous tanks. My favorite is probably the Odessa barbs right here with the red stripe. We also have some Harlequin rasboras. They do kind of run together a little bit. And then we still have a couple neon tetras. You might see a couple critters up on the log there. Here's some mono shrimp for just a little cleanup crew there. Here's a guy up close. All right, guys, so that does it for the classroom tour. Now, let's kick it over to Troy.
So next up, I'm gonna show you my basement aquariums, but we're gonna actually start out here with my backyard koi pond, which just opened up coming out of the winter. So the snow and ice have melted, the pump is back up and running. I still have the little floating heater on the pond, but I'm gonna remove that here shortly. All 6 of the koi survived the winter, which is just awesome. They've now made it through 3 very cold Chicago winters, and they're doing really great, putting on a lot of size. I can't wait to make some improvements to this pond and show some updates throughout the summer. But next up, we're gonna go into my basement and check out my 8 aquariums down there. Okay, so this is what it looks like down here in my basement. I obviously have my 180-gallon here, I have a 150 here, I have my discus tank down there. I will show a few different updates for some of my tanks as well as my fish room.
Hot diggity dog! This place is magnificent.
But first, let's take a look at the 180. So this is my 180-gallon acrylic aquarium with primarily South American cichlids. This tank has been set up and running for almost 3 years now. It's one of my favorite all-time aquariums just based on the stocking and the setup. I just love this tank. I always feel like I have to start here with my big Tiger Oscar Nessie since it is always front and center. This is probably the youngest fish in this tank at about 2 to maybe 2.5 years old. The rest are maybe 4 years old or even older. I have 4 Severums in here, including Big Red, who is a red spot gold Severum, as well as another red spot gold Severum, and both of these two have laid eggs in this tank a few times. I also have a red shoulder Severum and a turquoise Severum. And then I have a black Acara here who has some nice size. Has a little cut in its dorsal fin from all the way back when I picked it up when it was tiny, maybe 4.5 to 5 years ago. But I obviously have a very big non-cichlid in this tank, my bala shark named Bruce.
Name's Bruce.
He's about 1 foot in length and just a very active fish. I love the bala shark. And then I have 7 Geophagus topos or Pyrocephalus. I have a Geophagus steindachnerai. And lastly, I recently added a Nicaraguan cichlid. It was kind of an oddball in a separate holding tank, but I felt kind of guilty having it in a small tank, so I went ahead and put it in here for now. This female looks great and will do just fine in this tank. The one thing I was worried about was it moving around my sand and substrate, which I had done in other tanks before, and it wasted no time doing so. Check out the tank right before I did a water change and kind of evened out the surface. Every day there are huge craters in the sand now, and that's really all from the Nicaraguan cichlid. But the 180 is doing great, and right next to it is my 150-gallon custom aquarium. This custom aquarium has been up and running for about a year. I'm going to be doing a full update video on this tank very soon. But right now there are 5 Geophagus spini, which are total showstoppers in this tank. There are 4 electric blue Acara, which have shown breeding in this tank throughout the full year of the setup. I also have an albino hecali, a Satanoperca jurupari. I have 7 denizen barbs, and then I have 2 zebra lace angelfish. There are also 3 plecos in this tank, including a chocolate bristlenose, a super red bristlenose, and a leopard frog pleco. But overall, this tank has been doing great. I've been adding some more plants to it. I want it to be as full of plants as possible. Obviously, some cichlids are tough on plants, but these specific species are relatively good when it comes to some of your hardier plants like Anubias and Java Fern. But then right around to the left, we have our discus tank. This is a 90-gallon discus aquarium that's been set up for about 3 months. It currently has 6 discus that I originally unboxed a few months back. 3 of them are tiger turquoise and 3 are red melon discus. I'm going to be adding new fish to this tank very soon. I'm getting a new custom aquarium, which will open up room in other tanks for quarantine and holding tanks, which will make it much easier to quarantine some new tank mates for these discus before I throw them in this 90-gallon tank. So much more to come on this tank very soon. And then right next to that is where the new custom aquarium is going to be going. I am so excited for this. More to come very soon on that. But if you walk through the doorway here, this is my fish room. And in the fish room on the left, I have a double rack, which has a 40-gallon breeder on the bottom, which is a cold water aquarium with cichlids from Uruguay and the Paraguay area. They are Gymnogeophagus terrapurpura, and because they're from more southern countries in South America, they actually prefer colder temps. So I don't have a heater in this tank, which is kind of unique. I also have some tank mates with some green fired tetras and some panda cories. I'm going to be adding some plants and making some updates to this tank very soon. But above this tank is my shell dweller tank, which has never really looked aesthetically pleasing because these guys rearrange the sand and decor so much. But this colony has really thrived for over 2 years now. I did recently have an issue with a heater failure, which actually killed a couple of them, but the big colony is still intact and they're doing great. I just have to rearrange some things and clean out the tank a bit, just get it looking a little bit better. But then to the right is my 75-gallon tank. This is full of African cichlids, specifically peacocks and a few common haps. So these guys have grown and the tank has really matured. I absolutely love the colors in this 75-gallon tank. Peacocks and haps really need that open water swimming space, which is why I have kind of minimal decor here. But these guys have grown and colored up so well, and they are really ready for a tank upgrade. So I have mentioned this on the channel a few times that they're going to be going in that new custom aquarium, which will then open up the 75-gallon tank for future projects and everything else that I can do along the way. And lastly, to the right, I have two 20-gallon tanks, which are growing out fish and future quarantine tanks. On the bottom, I have a lot of electrical acaras, which have grown up and they need to be moved to my local fish store or brought to a bigger aquarium, so that will be happening soon. And then above them, I have a 20-gallon tank with some more peacocks and haps that are growing out, and they will either go into the 75-gallon tank or the new custom aquarium right away, depending on their size, when everything gets set up here in the very near future. And now that I mentioned the new custom aquarium a few times, I figured, why not give a quick sneak peek? Okay guys, so it is here. I'm very excited to show this very soon on the channel. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that. Really appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.